Graduating, huh? With the release of Echoes of Wisdom, the Legend of Zelda franchise has been further renowned for its rich lore, innovative gameplay, and memorable characters. However, with Zelda's latest release, a further discussion on the evolution of the series can be made. Specifically that on its characters, lore, and how past entries influence later titles. Among Zelda's various entries, one of the most intriguing yet controversial is the series of games produced for the Philbrick CDI. Although these games, Link the Faces of Evil and Zelda the Wand of Gamelon, are often dismissed by fans due to their execution, they occupy a unique and surprisingly influential place in the broader Zelda mythology, an influence that even Nintendo may not enjoy to admit. Visually, Echoes of Wisdom is stunning. The art style retains the vibrant aesthetic of the Link's Awakening remake, while introducing more detailed environments and character models. Specifically, I am fond of Zelda's new design, which bears salience to our discussion, specifically that of the old console, the Philbrick CDI, and the Zelda entries that called it home. Developed without direct involvement from Nintendo, these titles diverge significantly from the canonical Zelda experiences. Their animation styles, voice acting, and gameplay mechanics have become infamous, often viewed as a stark contrast to the other entries within the franchise. The humor and bizarre storytelling of the CDI games, while jarring to many fans, highlights a unique alternative interpretation of the Zelda universe, one famous for its memes.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
My boy, this peace is what all true warriors strive for.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to. Squadala, we are off!
The Philbrick CDI, or more specifically Zelda CDI and Hotel Mario, another Nintendo property on the console, is notorious for hosting these campy animations, them being the subject of jokes and negative press. However, it saw a second life online in the form of YouTube poop. Those lucky enough to be on YouTube at the time will know exactly what I'm talking about. But to elucidate others, YouTube poops are a genre of remix videos that were popular during the 2000s. They can be best described as chaotic and charming, so much so that an entire community built up under the premise of remixing videos to create a satirical twist. That said, this genre of videos never really died in my view. The trend of remixing videos has persisted to the modern day in various forms. In a way, it is an art form.
Hi, Father.
Zelda, I'm under attack by the evil forces of Ganon. Die!
Father!
Zelda, the king is mad!
What?
Hey, Zelda, wake up! Huh? No, I can't go on without Zelda. I'm on a jump.
Yum, yum, yum.
And it was this format in which the Philbrick CDI found a new appreciation. This is best exemplified on IMDb of all places, where the Zelda CDI cast and crew can also be known for a film by the name of The King Wants Cheeseburgers. It is a legendary motion picture whereby the esteemed King Harkinian grows ravenous with hunger, a void that can only be filled with a hamburger of the cheese variety. Yet what started as a simple quest ended with murder, infidelity, and human trafficking. I might be exaggerating on just the hamburger part, but the point is, later artistic interpretations essentially redefined the image of Zelda CDI from an odd venture into a cult phenomenon. Christened the unholy Triforce by critics, how exactly did Phillips of all companies manage to develop Nintendo games, especially when they are known to be so protective of their IPs? Well, that's where the rabbit hole gets even deeper and more influential, with the birth of the PlayStation 1. In the late 1980s, Nintendo was the undisputed leader in the gaming market, thanks largely to the success of the Nintendo Entertainment System. As the industry began to transition from 8-bit to 16-bit and beyond, the demand for more advanced technology surged. Recognizing this, Nintendo sought a partner to develop a next-generation console that could handle CD-ROM technology, which promised larger storage capacities and more complex games. This quest led Nintendo to Sony, a company primarily known for its electronics and audio products. In 1988, the two companies entered into a partnership to develop the Super Nintendo CD-ROM, or SNES CD. This collaboration aimed to combine Nintendo's game development prowess with Sony's technological expertise. Interestingly enough, a prototype of this console actually exists. However, internal conflicts and miscommunications plagued the partnership. As the project progressed, Nintendo became increasingly concerned about losing control over its intellectual property and brand identity in the face of Sony's growing ambitions. Under earlier agreements between the two, Sony would retain international rights along with music and film licensing. This bothered Nintendo, with then-President Hiroshi Yamauchi reneging on all plans for a joint Nintendo-Sony CD venture without telling Sony. The turning point came at the 1991 Consumer Electronics Show, where Nintendo unexpectedly announced its partnership with Philips instead of continuing with Sony. This move stunned Sony and led to a significant fallout between the two companies. Nintendo's shift to Philips resulted in a licensing agreement that would allow Philips to develop games for the Super Nintendo, ultimately culminating in the creation of the Philips CDI console we all know and love. While Nintendo's relationship with Philips gave fruit, Sony was busy regrouping after its split with Nintendo. Fueled by frustrations and aspirations, Sony pursued the gaming market independently. This led to 1994, when the company released the PlayStation, and the rest, as they say, is history. The fallout from the partnership between Nintendo and Sony, as well as the misadventures with Philips, had lasting implications for the gaming industry. If Nintendo and Sony never had a falling out, a PlayStation console bolstered by both Sony and Nintendo could have been born. For example, could you imagine a console that had the combined library of both the N64 and PS1? Moreover, looking at both platforms under a contemporary lens, you can't help but wonder what the PS5 and Switch, or the Switch's successor, would have looked like if this had happened. However, if Sony and Nintendo never had a falling out, we wouldn't have gotten these Zelda CDI animations. In all seriousness, these games hold a unique influence on not just being oddities, but rather the historical conditions behind their conception. Perhaps it is for the best that Nintendo and Sony split. The industry indeed needs competition. Not only that, but these games have a rather underappreciated influence on the Zelda series as a whole. Don't believe me? To start with, the CDI games were the first to feature Impa. Previously, she was only mentioned in the manuals of prior titles, but it goes so much deeper than that. Ganondorf is the undisputed main villain of the Zelda series, and his traditional color scheme of dark green and red was shown first in the CDI games. In the recent Tears of the Kingdom, much emphasis has been placed in the secret stone displayed on his forehead. A similar design is found in Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and Ocarina of Time, with the gem being fashioned on his forehead in each iteration. However, this gem trend began in, well, Zelda CDI. Yep, this all started in the CDI games. Prior incarnations of Ganon were relegated to his boar-like form. With Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda begins her quest to save Link along with her father the king, which is exactly the plot point that Wand of Gamelon first introduced. Looking at the two side by side, the designs of Zelda herself strike some similarities. Not only with the hairstyle, tiara placement, and vest, but also the tri-rod, which bears a resemblance to the titular Wand of Gamelon, save for the gem. Granted, that might be reaching a bit since Zelda has so many different styles already, but I just can't help myself from drawing similarities to the CDI games. An additional resemblance can be made with Zelda's adventure. the third CDI Zelda, beginning with Ganon capturing Link and stars Zelda in her quest to rescue him. With that said, I would say Zelda's adventure is the least inspired out of the 3 CDI games. Even though this is the first and only Zelda game to feature live-action assets, it unfortunately gives the game a rather cheap aesthetic, like a fake game you would see someone play in a movie or something. And Ganon straight up looks like a cyber demon from Doom. Speaking of these resemblances, how about we delve further into Zelda CDI's history by introducing the voice actress for Zelda in both Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon. I introduced the legendary Bonnie Jean Wilbur, who is not only the first voice of the titular princess in the games, but her performance marks a conceptual bridge to the series' modern iterations. First off, it is an absolute honor to speak with you. I, along with many others, have been huge fans of the Zelda CDI games. I was wondering, how exactly did you find yourself voicing Princess Zelda in the CDI games, and what drew you to the character?
Well, at the time, so this was 30 years ago. I was working with a small theater company, a small equity theater company in Newburyport, Massachusetts. And a bunch of us went down, I don't know if it was Boston or outside of Boston. And it was someone who was working in the company. So it was kind of like a little repertory company. And it was someone who was working in the company who had the connection, and whoever it was said, you know, can you get me a bunch of actors? So we all piled into cars and drove down, and yeah, we auditioned and then same day recorded. And yeah, and I got the part.
Were there any challenges you faced in bringing your character to life?
Well, I mean, Zelda's she's a princess, she's an ingenue, and at that time, that was my niche. That's how I was cast. I was cast as ingenues. So, no, I felt right at home with her.
Can you describe a memorable moment or scene during the recording process?
I was trying other characters, and there's a character, I guess, not quite sure who she is, but she's sort of sultry and sexy, and the guys were really nice to me. They let me try, so I tried, and they were very sweet to me, and they were like, yeah, not quite, you're not quite getting it. So but in Arzat, I do get to be sort of sultry sexy, so I guess my voice is lowered a little bit and I could get away with it. So
what message or feeling do you hope audiences take away from the Zelda CDI games after all this time?
Oh, wow. Well, like I said, I don't know. I mean, I know that there are memes. I've been told that there are memes. I haven't really seen them. And the only way that I knew that Zelda was still like a big thing is because people started sort of tracking me down to, ask me questions and say hi. And, I've had people ask for my autograph, which blows my mind. But I work at a boarding school. And when the kids find out that I'm the voice of Zelda, suddenly I'm much cooler.
Thanks again to the great Bonnie Jean Wilbur for being a part of this video. I will post the full interview I had with her in the future. But for now, I hope you all enjoyed that short discussion I had with her. In closing, the Zelda CDI games saw a renewed appreciation thanks to just how interesting it all is. Not just for its production and presentation, but also for its underappreciated influence on the gaming landscape. And that all started with this giant brick of a console known as the Philips CDI. Back when I was a kid, my uncle used to have one of these things along with a copy of Hotel Mario. Looking back, I was kind of charmed by this game, even though its aesthetics could be considered odd. In a way, you could say the same for the Philips CDI as a whole, along with its library. Like, it was never supposed to exist, but it somehow managed to, and we are better for it. The relationships among Nintendo, Sony, and Philips during the birth of the PlayStation and the CDI illustrate how collaboration, competition, and miscommunication can profoundly affect the trajectory of an entire industry. Nintendo's initial partnership with Sony promised potential, but ultimately unraveled due to concerns over control and direction. Meanwhile, the ill-fated Philips CDI served as not only an oddity, but a forgotten culmination of an industry for its time, one whose influence is still felt, underappreciated, to this day. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is the latest installment in the beloved Zelda franchise, transporting players back to the enchanting world of Hyrule, delivering a unique experience for both longtime fans and newcomers, resulting in many that are enjoying the new Zelda experience. But amidst the new, remember the echoes of CDI. When making this video, I was looking into purchasing copies of Zelda CDI online, only to find it being sold for massive amounts online. To those who are looking to play these gems, my recommendations are either emulation or a certain game known as RZ, the Jewel of Faramore, developed by CDI Software. It is a retro-inspired platformer that pays homage to Zelda CDI, while offering a fresh experience. This game has been my new obsession as of late because of its relationship with both Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon, especially when it comes to references found in both games. For example, at the end of Wand of Gamelon, Duke Otland pleads to King Harkinian to show mercy. At the intro of RZ, you see a disgruntled Duke indeed scrubbing the floors.
Please, your omnipotence, have mercy.
After you've scrubbed all the floors in Hyrule, then we can talk about mercy. Take him away.
After the war's end, the traitorous Duke Nodelki was sentenced to a lifetime of hard labor.
It's moments like this that had me grinning the whole time. Would highly recommend it if you are looking for another Zelda fix after Echoes of Wisdom. Plus, Bonnie Jean Wilbur along with other cast members from the CDI games make an appearance as voice actors. Now, before I head on out, I wanted to take some time to address some things. It's been years since I last had a real proper upload on the Macintyre channel. I discussed things in more detail in the update video, but I just wanted to say it feels so good to be back in the saddle after all this time. Hopefully you found some enjoyment in this upload even after all these years. Special thanks goes to all the longtime supporters of this channel. You know who you are. In the future, I plan to upload more videos like this, along with other special projects I have in mind. If you want to further support Macintyre, here is our Patreon link. A like and a comment also goes a long way to help out. As always, have a damn good one.